Good day and welcome to the African News broadcast from Canada. My name is Sanjara Asante. Top stories. We will keep marching on to Addis Ababa, TPLF says. Short time to resolve Ethiopia crisis, US and AU. Also, South Sudan flooding affect over 1 million people. These are more stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned. You're welcome back from the break to our first story. The UN Security Council met on Monday to discuss the conflict in northern Ethiopia, even as forces said to be advancing towards the capital, Addis Ababa. The open session in New York discussed the humanitarian crisis, where nearly 8 million people are facing what the UN has described as a near famine conditions. Previously, UN Security Council meetings ended with no concrete resolution on the ending the fight, but US has withheld millions of dollars in aid to Ethiopia and has threatened to punitive actions against those instigating the conflict. Both sides have rejected proposals to have face-to-face negotiations till the end of the year-long conflict. Over the weekend, top UN and African Union envoys visited Mekelle, the capital of northern Tigray region, and appealed for a ceasefire and a safe passage for humanitarian assistance to the millions in need of urgent food aid. Still in Ethiopia's Tigray region, UN Aid Chief Martin Griffiths and the African Union's envoy for the Horn of Africa, Olusegun Obasanjo, visited the North Tigray region of Ethiopia on Sunday to discuss humanitarian access and a possible ceasefire in the long-year conflict. Mr. Griffiths and Mr. Obasanjo, a former Nigerian president, were in the regional capital Mekelle at the same time, according to a report. It is unclear, however, whether the two were on the same trip. Tigray TV reported that the two met the president of Tigray government, Dr. Gabri Michael, in his office for talks on the crisis in Ethiopia and ways to deliver humanitarian aid and regional issues. It said Mr. Griffiths and Obasanjo later returned to Addis Ababa. A UN spokesperson was quoted by the AFP news agency saying that Mr. Griffiths met Tigray's de facto authorities and insisted on the need for humanitarian access and protection of civilians through all areas under their control. The TPLF spokesman Getachew Reda tweeted a photo apparently showing the meetings between Mr. Obasanjo and the TPLF leaders. Last November, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent the army to Tigray to oust Debretsion Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF from power in Tigray state, but the forces took control of Mekelle in June. More Ethiopian stories. An Ethiopian has restricted a number of social media outlets, including Facebook, Telegram, WhatsApp, and Instagram, amid reports of a school examination paper leak. BBC staff in the capital says the services cannot be accessed without using a virtual private network (VPN). Social media has been restricted to prevent exam cheating in the past, and this latest incident coincides with final year exams for secondary schools. Some pro-opposition activists were seen sharing pages of what appear to be a leaked exams, but Ethiopia's education minister denies any leak and says 4 students were arrested while taking pictures of exam papers in an exam hall. The government has not given any reason for the internet restrictions. A Tigray forces spokesman says their forces will keep marching on to Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa until the government lifts its blockade on the northern region. Getachew Reda told the BBC Focus on Africa radio program that the only obstacle that was standing in the way of Ethiopia's peace was Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's obsession with the military solution to what is essentially a political problem. The forces had been advancing towards the capital, and the government has asked residents of the Addis Ababa to mobilize and protect their neighborhoods. That's what he's claiming. Mr. Getachew said that their continuing march was not so much about Addis Ababa, but their intentions to arm towards Mr. Abiy to lift the blockade on the people. It is for Abiy to say yes to our demands and put end to the conflict. Tigray People's Liberation Liberation Front TPLF spokesman said. The spokesman said former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is in Ethiopia trying to negotiate an end to the war, had fruitful talks with the TPLF leader Gabri Michael. He said the TPLF leader had explained what they stand for. Our final Ethiopian story, both US and the African Union AU have said they believe there is a small window of opportunity to resolve the conflict in Ethiopia. Special Envoy Jeffrey Feltman is back in Addis Ababa to meet AU officials. He was in Ethiopia last week where he met federal and regional government officials. AU Envoy Olusegun Obasanjo told the UN Security Council meeting that time was running out and that there would be a dire humanitarian consequences if the conflict is not resolved soon. The conflict in Ethiopia began a year ago when the regional and federal forces crashed in the north. We are ending in Sudan, and the government of South Sudan says more than 1 million people have been affected by flash flooding this year. Disaster Management Minister Peter Mayin Majongdet announced this while receiving food aid from Egypt. He said the donation food items that includes sugar, rice, lentils, and other items will be